Hi everyone, my name is Patrick Akil, and for today's episode, we cover career opportunities and growth, give you a little insight in today's tech market, and we cover leadership, what makes a great tech leader. Joining me today is Jeff Perry, who's a career and leadership coach, as well as being the founder of More Than Engineering. I'll put all the links to his socials in the description below, and with that being said, enjoy the episode.
Beyond coding.
A laptop mic doesn't do any good.
Exactly. So the podcast is part of a project or part of one of the projects that you're already working on. What are some others?
Yeah, so I've got a few different programs and things that I run with engineers and technology professionals around leadership and career coaching and stuff like that. So one of them is called the Engineering Career Accelerator Program. That's kind of my flagship program that I've been running for almost 2 years since I created it. And it's really about helping people make intentional career transitions. So especially the pandemic and other situations, people have been like, hey, I'm trying to figure out where I really want to go in my career, what's important to me and things like this. And so we try and look at the big picture and move through this process with a bunch of curated resources that I've created for them.
Yeah.
They get one-on-one work with me, but also there's a group or community aspect and training and almost like a mastermind experience with other people who are also moving through similar experiences. And we do that together through that Engineering Career Accelerator program. Then I built I'm in the pilot stage of building some other programs more focused on the leadership and personal development side. I do a lot on mindsets and how do we actually take a personal shift that we want to make, whether that's a goal I have to be a better leader, to delegate and let go more,
Yeah.
or I need to be able to set boundaries and be able to take care of myself so that I can, be who I need to be, or to be more present with people. I mean, whatever that is, a lot of times those sorts of shifts that people are trying to make are not quite as easy to make a change or learn how to do as, like, say, learning a technical thing, like learning a new software language or learning a new technical skill or something like that.
Yeah.
In fact, some psychologists will sort of separate those and call one an adaptive change versus a technical change that we're trying to make, right?
Okay.
Technical change is pretty straightforward. You take a course, you do some practice, you can learn how to do something. Adaptive change means that we actually need to change internally some of our belief systems and assumptions we have about ourselves and our mindsets and things. And so there's I've done a pilot of a program that works on some of those things.
Yeah.
Also includes some things around time management, productivity, building meaningful relationships in our careers and other areas, finding mentors. But so it's really fun to see people really make some shifts there. And then we can go further with deeper one-on-one coaching sometimes that people need as well.
Who's the main audience there? Like, is it people that are just out of school, more early in career, or like really experienced professionals?
Yeah, usually almost always experienced professionals. People have
Yeah.
been out and in their careers, maybe looking to make that leadership jump or into senior technical leaders.
Yeah.
Even all the way up to executive level leaders and things like that. With executive VPs and CTOs and worked with a few of those VPs of engineering. And so I worked with a wide range of people and experiences over the years, but it's fun to see, hey, the principles are the same, because really we're still working with people who need to make some shifts, need to make some changes. And, we all need that help, no matter how experienced or
For
whatever
sure.
we are.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I asked is because I think the people that are more experienced in their career already, they've narrowed down kind of what they need to focus on. And usually it's not necessarily the technical skills, right? When you start off, you're like, okay, how do we resolve this on a technical level? And once you've got that down, that kind of fits in your routine, it's already programmed in you, then you start looking outside of that. And once you notice either you're not getting as much influence or you're not communicating how well you want to, or things are just not happening the way you want to, then you start looking at, okay, what am I doing wrong, or what can I do differently? But I think also because you're looking at experienced professionals, they've already been programmed in a way of working or a way of thinking, which is then why if you want to change that behavior, it's a lot more difficult than picking up a new tool if we're talking about skill set and tech.
Right. And it can be a little bit different. I mean, I think you're right. They've established most of those technical things they need to do, but the things that they need to do in terms of getting clarity as far as how they apply those things and where they want to create the impact and utilize their skill sets in different ways. And also still at that point, like whether they're I've had people who are just 3 to 5 years away from retirement
Yeah,
or maybe 10, 15 years away from retirement or in some of their ways, still like they're trying to think of what's the legacy that I want to leave? How do I want to end this career that I'm in that I've worked so hard to invest my time and my effort into?
interesting.
How do I want to finish that? And it creates different thoughts and feelings in terms of what's really important to them in this phase.
Yeah,
But still, they go back to a lot of the principles that people need to work on is this idea of I call it career clarity,
mm.
like really defining the things that are important to them, and that's going to shift over time. It's not like you answer one question at one time in your career and suddenly you've got everything mapped out and X marks the spot and you've got this perfect treasure map to this perfect destination,
Yeah, that would be easy.
right? But it, if if it was that easy, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, maybe it sounds good,
Mhm.
but also think about if things in life were that easy, we wouldn't learn and grow very much, right?
Exactly. Life would be less
And so,
exciting, probably.
yeah, I think we'd be bored pretty quick.
Yeah.
So the challenges and the struggle and stuff is what's really good for us in so many instances. But getting this clarity and we can talk a lot more about some of the tools and ways we do that today. I'm happy to do that. It's fun because it's so important though
Yeah.
to have a purpose driven approach, to be intentional, to be proactive
Mhm.
in terms of what we're trying to do, who we're trying to become in our lives and our careers. And when we can do that, we feel like we're moving towards something
Yeah.
that we're really driven by, that we're excited about. Then suddenly we have more motivation. We have that ability to push through the challenges that we face. And we also deliver more impact and we do better work in that situation, right?
Yeah.
So that's some of the things that I just believe highly in. If we can help people get aligned with the things that are important to them, then they can deliver greater impact, which is critical. We're talking about engineering and technology, because if we can put people in the right spots to succeed and do their best work, then we can deliver those innovations and really unlock their potential in so many different ways.
Yeah. It's interesting if I think back to clarity and what that means for me. I've usually
Hmm.
had it when I step kind of out of my daily routine, right? I think if people are
Totally.
kind of stuck in your own routine, you get kind of caught up by time and you're in that routine. It's hard kind of stepping out of it and being like, okay, what is this routine actually? And do we need to make a shift? Does this align with my goals, or what even are my goals, or what do I value either in life or in a job, right? Those questions don't come naturally. You have to be triggered through something, and it can usually be a book or a podcast or an audiobook. For me, it's usually a conversation
Hmm.
with people asking questions, and I'm like, my internal thought process. All of a sudden, I need to communicate, and that's when I'm like, okay, these things we actually need to work on, or things get a lot more clearer when I actually externalize my thoughts in that way. How do you get that clarity, or what is your kind of work process there?
Yeah, so we can talk about a lot of different areas, and you mentioned some, but just because I know a lot of people who are listening here are probably doing something else, they're driving or exercising or doing something else. I actually put together a free resource for Beyond Coding listeners that people can go grab to after or during our session today at www.engineeringcareeraccelerator.com/beyond coding. So people can go grab that and has a bunch of different tools and resources in there. I call it my career clarity checklist
Yeah.
that people can go grab there. So as a free resource, we can point people to. But I think you're right. There's some sort of resource or conversation or something that is outside of our day to day, that it's a very introspective or reflective process that we need to get into to really think bigger than this is what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And so there's a number of different tools or ideas we can talk about. One of them is getting down to that deeper level of motivation, that intrinsic motivation. What drives us deeper beyond, like, we talk. There's a lot we talk about goals, like this is what I want to do, this is what I want to accomplish, and that's kind of that surface level piece. Like maybe I want to make a certain amount of money in my career, I want to get this sort of title,
Yeah.
or I want to live in this city or have this sort of work-life balance or whatever that is,
Hmm.
right? But what's the purpose behind the goal? What's the goal behind the goal,
Yeah.
right? What's the why? And so one of the tools that I use a lot to help people identify that, I actually learned from my days when I was in. So after I did software for a while, I did mechanical engineering, but then I was in manufacturing for a while. And one of the things we were always trying to do is improve quality. And whenever there's a quality issue, when you're creating physical products,
Yeah.
and same with software products too, is you have to do like a root cause analysis and figure out what's really the cause of the issue, right?
Exactly.
And dig deeper. And so one of the tools we use, and maybe you're familiar with this, is called the 5 whys,
Hmm.
where you say, hey, what's the problem? Okay, why did that happen? And then keep asking, okay, we answered that. Why did that happen? And keep going deep, at least 5 levels deep,
Yeah.
asking the question why 5 times. We can apply the same thing with a goal and trying to ask yourself why that's important. So just
Exactly.
to use a very simple example, someone who has a goal, they want to make a certain amount of money in their career. Okay, why is that? Right? So they might say, I want to be able to own a house.
Hmm.
Okay, buy a house. Okay, well, why is that important? Well, I didn't have that as a kid, or I want to be able to provide for my family or something. Okay, why is that important? Well, I want to be able to give my family, that the experiences they want, or I want to be able to grow that investment over time. Like whatever that is,
Yeah.
you're gonna uncover these. You ask why again. You ask why again. Go at least 5 levels. We can go 6, 7, 8 levels deep. But in the end, you're going to come down to something that's a lot deeper than, oh, I want to make a certain amount of money. You're going to come down to, oh, this is really important to me because of something that I believe about myself or
Yeah.
about the world around me or something. And you're going to identify that. And suddenly that can become this much more powerful piece to understand. This is why I've had people tell me, well, I want to understand and find that clarity and find a career that's important to me because I saw both of my parents be
Hmm.
very unhappy in their careers. And that affected me as a child when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a much deeper level of motivation to try and figure this out and build a career of meaning than just making a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And so all sorts of things that could come up, and that's unique to every person, but that's the beauty of it. We get outside of our daily routines, like we've talked about. We go more introspective, and suddenly we can get clarity and expose these things that might be a little more unconscious and bring it to the forefront
Yeah.
and be driven by that.
I'm wondering if you kind of peel that onion with the why questions, are some of those kind of underlying goals, is there how do you say that? Are there commonalities? Because I would either assume that a lot of goals are very personal, exactly with the example that you gave. My parents were unhappy, or that reflected on me, or I always saw that, stuff like that. I don't know if those would be common or not. What have you noticed there?
Yeah, so I don't. Some things are common,
Hmm.
right? When people are trying to dive in and figure out, okay, why do I want to make this change? Well, a lot of people have this desire for growth,
Yeah.
where a lot of people feel maybe at some point they're stagnated in their life or their career.
Yeah.
And so there's this drive, like, I don't want to just be complacent and just stay where I'm at, because I feel like I'm stuck. I'm not enjoying what I'm doing very much, and I'm not engaged or growing. And so that things like that are pretty common,
Yeah.
right? Like the desire to continue to grow and improve. But those deeper level of things, maybe connected to family systems, or in some cases traumatic events,
Yeah.
whether at work or at home or family or other things, like those are very personal and aren't, I don't see a lot of commonality.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, but that's also where people get a lot more personal and vulnerable and connected to those big goals, and why it's really important to them,
Yeah.
right? So it's it's important to have both levels. We can find those common goals,
Yeah.
those common drivers, but the more people are willing to dig a little bit deeper, the more impactful it can be for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. As you lay it out, like the goals or the reasons behind the goals would obviously be personal, right? Because every context is different. The way you grew up, the environment, the diversity in there is huge. So yeah,
Right.
probably makes sense that there's not a lot that is common there. But the thing that is common, the thing that you laid out, people feeling stuck. Ideally, you wouldn't have that, right? Ideally, you would have something within the organization that they could go to and they could get unstuck, right? Whether it's a new position or some challenging new thing in what they're already doing. Ideally, people shouldn't feel stuck, yet they do, right? Is there something from an organizational level that is lacking? Are they lacking those conversations they're having when they're talking to you? Like, why are people feeling stuck in the first place?
All sorts of reasons. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, that there's something going on in the organization,
Mm.
right? Sometimes an organization can do right by the employee by actually supporting them to go and do something else,
Yeah,
right? Like for so many reasons, whether that's alignment with the purpose of the organization, and someone just realizes over time that that's not aligned with the things that are important to them
yeah,
in terms of causes or products or services, whatever the organization is focused on. And that's okay. Like, you wouldn't want people to stick around long term. It's not going to be great for the organization if they stick around,
yeah,
right? You want people who are really aligned, and that's okay. Because I've had people who had experiences in medical devices, and uh, some some people really love that and like really want to go into medical devices because they have a huge passion for the healthcare industry. I had one person who specifically wanted to get out of that
yeah,
because they really just didn't feel connection to that, but they really wanted to get into green energy and sustainable building and
mhm,
things like that. And so it's a different context.
yeah,
And it's not nothing that the organization was going to change to make that better for that person. Right. So sometimes the organization can't do anything, but absolutely some of those conversations you're talking about, how do we engage this person, make sure that we are utilizing their strengths, continuing to give them opportunities to be pushed
yeah,
and learn and grow. All too often, I think organizations or leaders can sort of just put people in a box. This is what we hired you to do, and this is what you're going to continue to do, right?
yeah,
And just sort of hope that that person is going to run and continue to operate that way, and forget to connect with the person, right? They sort of see some of the employment experiences and the people in their organization as transactional,
yeah,
right? We're just, we're paying you to do a job. We expect you to do the job, and hopefully you do well at it.
yeah. That's quite sad.
Rather than shifting to a transformational approach. Hey, in hiring you, we expect you to do great work, but we also want to support you in growing and becoming who you want to be. And if we can do that, that's going to be a win-win for both of us, because you're going to want to stick around. You're going to be more engaged. You're going to do great work. You're going to deliver great impact,
Yeah,
and it's going to be great for us. It's also going to be great for you. And so, trying to take a transformational approach to leadership and employment and building people can have a much greater impact. And some organizations do that well, Some don't. Sometimes it's very team dependent, especially within very large organizations.
Yeah.
I hear great stories and horror stories from some of the biggest names in tech, and so everyone's got different experiences, but in all things, we're trying to align the organization, the team goals with the individuals, how we put the right people in the right seats in the right situations,
Yeah.
and so that everyone can win.
Yeah. That makes sense. It does. When you say people see people as part of a process or as a transaction, right? A means to an end. That is
Hmm.
quite sad. And
Yeah.
I think it is an outdated thought. And I do see it shifting towards the better more and more because a lot of information is out there and open. And organizations will get a lot of flack, rightfully so, for not treating their people, as humans, right? If they're treating them as part of a process, then it will get out there. The last few examples I've seen is because lots more layoffs are happening right now. When when layoffs are imminent or when information is not fully transparent, people go on LinkedIn, people go on Twitter, and you know exactly which organizations either are going to have layoffs uh, or are just really bad at giving out the information and putting people at ease for their job security and their livelihood, right? Because
Right.
you can say, "Oh, it's not about the money. You should also enjoy whatever you're doing," but it is your livelihood. It's kind of the only, for the most people, the only source of income they have. So when it is at stake, man, it's incredibly bad if organizations don't treat that well.
Right. And on the other side, I've seen great examples on LinkedIn and other places where organization, I mean, sometimes the realities of business,
Yeah.
layoffs need to happen, right? So it's not like a big bad business, they lay off, they're an evil thing, but
Mm.
sometimes that's just the realities, because in order for them to continue to survive and employ anybody,
Yeah.
they need to do that, right? So it's not always a terrible thing, but you're talking about the way they go about doing that, and I've seen experiences and examples of other sorts of companies who have done that really well,
Mm.
and where even through that really difficult situation,
Yeah.
employees have felt supported. They felt like, hey, the people in the organization, the leaders that made that decision were supporting me and helping me to create that transition, whether that's they were very willing to be references,
Mm.
say, hey, anyone who worked for me, even though they're not on my team, like we can't employ them anymore, I will vouch for any one of them, or I'm going to open up my network and anyone that I can to help these people get something new.
Yeah.
And that's a completely different approach, and that's going to build loyalty, even to and great feelings. Like, we're not burning bridges, we're creating bridges
Exactly.
for people to new opportunities and situations, and that's going to win you credibility and loyalty in the marketplace,
Yeah.
as well as those people who they're always going to still talk about their experience at that company quite positively, even if they got let go,
Yeah.
just because the realities of business sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, I like the analogy of the burning bridges, right? Because if you create those bridges for the people that you can't keep on, right, whatever the reason may be, it still increases your longevity of a company, right? If you all of a sudden you're up and coming again and you start hiring, either people will know because they've read something or they will remember because you've done something, right? And I think if you burn those bridges, you're all but done, right? That is one of the final things that happens before you actually go under the ground. So keeping those relationships and building those bridges or creating new ones, as you say, I think that's an incredibly good job if you do that as a company.
Right, right. Because so much of business and stuff is relationships, and just the way that people feel
Mm.
about you, your product, your service,
Yeah,
and that's going to spur all sorts of different results for you if you can do that in the right way, and how you treat your employees says a lot about how you're going to treat your customers, and how people feel connected to that.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I completely agree with that. If we look at the market now, or let's start with a few years back, there was a huge boom and people were being hired left and right. Right, it was in the middle of COVID. A lot of stuff was remote, anyways, especially in Europe, especially in Amsterdam, where I live. Um, People saw opportunities that weren't there before. There was a lot
Hmm.
of overseas companies hiring. salaries went up the roof, different scales here and there. There was a lot of opportunity, and now it's trending towards more recession, and you're seeing a lot more layoffs happening in that way. I think it's one of the biggest kind of reality checks for a lot of people in tech that, yeah, it's not always going to be booming, and you're not always going to earn your dream salary in a way, because I do think it's declining. Where do you see it's going, or what's the trend you've seen so far?
Yeah, so I don't have any crystal ball here,
Mm.
but I still see a mix, right? So I still see some people in some industries and some functions, demanding and getting big salaries and huge pay increases and things like that.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, that was really inflated. It was really hard for companies to keep people. There's a lot here in the U.S., and I don't know how much this trickled into conversations in Europe and things. Talked a lot about the Great Resignation. We had
Mm.
more people quitting their jobs, during that time, especially like 2021,
Yeah.
than in any other period in the last like 40 or 50 years. Like deciding to move to something new, and that's
Yeah.
that's whether they had a new opportunity or they were just saying, going through all COVID stuff and saying, this is not how I want to live my life. I got to take a reset. And sometimes they just quit with nothing on the other side. All sorts of different reasons. But higher rates of people leaving than at any other point in the last few decades.
Yeah.
And but absolutely, as we've come in here, some of the economic things have trickled through the system with a lot of inflation and other things. There are a lot of business realities, some of the economic things cooling down for
Mm.
companies, and some of that's purposeful on the economic side, because to reduce inflation, you need to reduce demand a little bit, and so business revenues are going to go down,
Yeah.
which means that businesses need to relax some of their opportunities as far as how many people they can employ or how much they can pay,
Yeah.
right, to be able to continue to operate. So yeah, some of that is absolutely happening. It seems like almost every day there's another layoff that I hear about, and sometimes at very large companies,
Mm.
or and certainly startups and things are feeling it. But um, so there's this mix, right? So some people are having that hard time being let go, and some people have great opportunities, and it's about how can an individual
Yeah.
align and figure out how do they navigate whatever the market situation, because some things we can't control, right? We can't control the market situations. What we can control is how we operate inside of it,
Yeah.
how
Exactly.
we go about doing that. So whether that's a really hot market, how do
Mm.
I find the best opportunity, and maybe use that as an opportunity to get a higher paycheck, or find a new opportunity that might not have been available before. That's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
In a more constrained market, okay, there's still plenty of jobs out there. Plenty of people are hired, but and how can you still optimize and figure out, how do I go back to those clarity principles? How do I figure out how to find something that I'm aligned with,
Yeah.
that I'm excited about, that I can utilize the great skills I have and also grow upon them
Mm.
and deliver great impact. And if you can do that, well, you're going to get paid. You're going to get paid well, because you're delivering impact that someone needs. I like to say, if you're trying to find a new career opportunity, one of the best ways to think about it is how do you become the solution to a problem that needs to be solved,
Yeah.
right? Every position in a company is maybe a new position that's open, or a position that already exists. Like, you're expected to solve a problem inside of that company,
Mm.
whether that's a capacity issue or particular skills or new technology that needs to be built, whatever that is. How do you position yourself as a solution to the problem that a company needs to be solved? If you can show that you align there, then you're going to have opportunities for
Yeah.
sure.
I like that, because that's the reason why a company exists as well, right? To solve a certain problem. And you do that
Absolutely.
by creating a group of people that have the skills to solve that certain problem, right? And sure, bringing together that group of people is going to create new problems. But then again, you bring people to solve those problems, either tools or solutions. And you can be part of that as well. Just figuring out what the problem is, and how you fit within that puzzle that eventually solves that business problem as well. Yeah.
Right. Right.
What I think is right now the tech landscape is quite huge when it comes to different technologies. Right, I am a software engineer now. I didn't start off like that. I had no clue what I wanted to do. It was through experience that I learned and that I grew into the position that I have now. But I do notice that at some point when you're an engineer, the focus on growth is not as heavy as it is in the beginning, right? Getting to that experienced professional level, it's pretty clear on what you want to work on because a lot of those skills are the technical ones, right? Being actually able to solve those problems on a technical level. But then as you want to grow beyond that, it's usually, for me or for what I've seen, it's either increasing your sphere of influence, and you can do that by being the best tech guy, basically knowing the tool sets that are current and that are probably going to be future proof, and being able to adapt on a technical level. Or you're going to go more high over, right? Inspire, be a visionary, and multiply the people that then do more of the technical responsibilities. I think those are the two, but I don't know a lot of organizations that offer either or both within the same organization, right? It's quite sad that you actually do need to sometimes transition to a different organization, even though you don't want to all of the time, before you can get that opportunity. I don't know why though, because I think if organizations focus on personal growth a lot more and offer up those doors to new opportunity, people wouldn't have to transition that much. Yet they don't, so people do.
Yeah. So again, sometimes it's just business realities. There are sometimes that the next level of growth for a person
Mm.
just isn't necessarily a need for the organization at the time,
Yeah.
right? Because the organizational size and what they're working on, like, that next step just is not a need for the organization.
Mm.
And again, that's not necessarily that anyone is doing wrong.
Yeah.
And the organization should support them. And okay, if that's the right next step, then go do that, please. And that's going to be great. And if things change and you go learn some new skills, then we'd love to have you come back because we love you.
Yeah.
And we love the work that you do, right? So maybe again, we want to keep those bridges open. We don't want to burn those bridges, but plenty of organizations that are huge, right? Opportunities abound in all sorts of different functions and skills and levels of employment and things like that. Again, sometimes lose sight of, and maybe within a team,
Mm.
that leader and a person that they have a stewardship to grow, maybe is just really focused on, again, that transactional piece. Like, hey, I need
Yeah.
this person to do this. And if they leave to go do something else, well, then then I'm not gonna have them to do this, and that I'm gonna have to pick up all that slack and all that stuff. So they like clamp down
Yeah.
more and more instead of helping that person grow. Um, or sometimes, from a leadership perspective, one of the things that technical leaders especially I find really struggle with is this idea of letting go
Mm.
of some of the technical pieces, that they may, you know, because they've grown up, become great technical experts,
Yeah.
right? But as they start leading teams and multiplying that effort in that way, not actually giving that responsibility to others,
Mm.
they hold that back because they want to hold on to that control. Well, that's actually diminishing their ability to grow, and it's actually holding you back from your own growth, by
Yeah.
the way. And by the way, when you hold on to things like that, you're actually more encouraging people to leave because they're not going to see that growth, and it makes it even worse for you and for them.
Is
So
it is it because people don't want to let go, or is it because they don't know what they would do otherwise?
it could be both,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Either way, it's kind of fear driven,
Exactly.
right? Because if I don't know what's on the other side of me owning, a certain level of technical competency, then that's me holding on to what's familiar
Exactly.
instead of being willing to embrace that uncertainty and grow in that way. But sometimes it's control, and so again, the same behaviors could be driven by different motivations in different people.
Mm.
In order to really make that shift, we need to uncover those deeper challenges, those things that are holding back. It's almost like tethering us back
Yeah.
from making that change, so that we can bring that forward and actually let some of that go. And there's some processes that I get to work with people through that and some of the coaching work. And so it's fun to see that people, kind of have realizations of things that they didn't recognize that were really holding them back before. But when we can make kind of the unconscious conscious,
Yeah,
something that awareness allows us to start really making progress.
exactly. I think it's getting more difficult as kind of technology emerges and as there's more stuff to do on a technical level, more problems to solve, to figure out where your place is within this. And I don't think there's going to be an end station. I think it's more that probably, as you said in the beginning, as you're building your legacy, you're going to have a few stops, right? And those stops can be different positions. They can be lateral moves or vertical moves or more with people or more with tech. I think if people see it more like that, they'll be more happier in the current because that's also an opportunity to learn from, right? You're not going to be
Yeah,
in your best position or in your ideal position all of the time, but all the positions you're in, all the opportunities and the context that you're in, you're going to learn from and you're going to grow from them. You're going to bring that with you, right? It's not a lost kind of experience because all experience makes you who you are and you get better because of that.
absolutely. Make the comparisons to the products or services we work on as engineers or technology people, right? So we go through prototypes, we create MVPs, minimum viable products.
Yeah.
And when we put something out in the world, we go through an iterative growth and change and improvement process on the products and services that we deliver.
Yeah.
Well, same thing about our careers and the situations that we find ourselves in. Every stage is sort of like a prototype, right? It's not an end state necessarily.
Mm.
It is a current state, but we're collecting data. We're learning what's working, what's not working, and how do we want to grow and continue to progress. And some of that we want to be deliberate about, intentional, and say this is where I want to grow and take my career and things
Yeah.
I want to try out, new technologies I want to learn, new skills I want to build, right? But sometimes there's new things come our way, and so we also need to have an emergent approach
Mm.
to allowing things to come our way, to explore, hey, I didn't expect this,
Yeah.
but this is something interesting that I might want to try, I might want to explore, I might want to learn more about. And that happens again in the marketplace with products and services we're building. Something comes our way, we didn't expect that. That's not necessarily our product strategy, but it came our way and we're like, okay, we need to try this.
Yeah.
Same thing in our careers. We're not going to map every single step along the way, but we can have sort of a direction, maybe a North Star that we can be pointing towards, the things that are important to us, but also be a little bit emergent as things come our way and say, hey, this is, let's explore this. But at any point, we continue to reevaluate and say, is this working? Is this not working? What are the things that I'm really enjoying?
Yeah.
Or areas I want to grow? And then we can map out what's essentially the next prototype, the next iteration, the next experiment I want to run in my life and my career.
Mm-hmm.
And we can take intentional action, try that out, whether that's within or without your current organization, and take that step, collect the data, see what works and what doesn't. Like, don't feel like just because you're in one function now that's where you have to be forever.
Yeah.
Like, you can make those changes, you can try new things, absolutely, as we move through these different iterations and stages of our lives and careers.
Yeah, I really like and I really subscribe to the thought of that kind of experimental mindset, right? I'm doing it. That is also my output, lots of experiments, and that's how I explain it. But my life and the stages that are in my life or the stops that I have, those can also be experiments, right? And gathering that data and learning from that onto the next one. I like that mindset a lot. What I'm really curious about, and it's also because it has to do with my personal career, is how people that are more technical oriented or have that technical background transition into becoming technology leaders, right? I have seen leadership, I've seen management, and I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying there's a mismatch in what I expect but because I'm doing the work, what I think and expect of them versus probably what they expect of the role they have, right? And if there's a mismatch, then usually people say, well, they're bad managers. But I more so see it as there is a mismatch and it's not going to be filled by itself. So either we can have a conversation and that mismatch is going to stay, or we can grow towards each other, hopefully, because that would be the best scenario, and be a better organization or team or whatever it may be because of that. But I think because people transition from a technical background, they don't quite know, or at least I wouldn't know, how to be that technology leader that is expected of the people that you're leading.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing for a lot of new technology leaders and even experienced ones.
Yeah.
They move into this new role, and the role and the focus and the impact of it completely changes
Mm.
when they're moving from individual contributor as a technical, maybe a senior technical person, to now they manage and people and projects and things like this.
Yeah.
Like the focus of what they're trying to deliver and where their impact comes from in their work is very different. But like you said, if you were to move into that space, you wouldn't know exactly what that looks like.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to identify, certainly as an employee of a manager or something, what bad management looks like
Mm.
than to become a, a good leader,
Yeah.
right? Um, but really recognizing that companies have this responsibility. If we're going to put people in leadership situations, they have this stewardship to take care of and build the people and the teams and the projects that they now own.
Yeah.
How do we set them up for success?
Mm.
Right. And all too often just kind of throw them in the deep end. And there's plenty of lessons you can learn from being thrown in the deep end and trying to learn how to swim.
Yeah.
Recognize that that may not be the optimal way to learn, right? To have the, so mentorship, coaching, support, training, and also just things like standards and building a culture around what does good leadership look like,
Yeah.
rather than just sort of it being a free for all and hopefully everyone kind of figures it out. Um, some of those things can help set people up for success, rather than just sort of throwing them to the wolves and hope they figure it out. But if they don't have that vision, that understanding of this is now my responsibility and where I deliver my best work, well, they're going to default to, again, this is what we were talking about before. They're going to have a hard time letting go. They're going to default to what they know,
Yeah.
what they've done really well for years as a technical person, and might not actually grow into becoming that effective leader that the company and the team needs them to be, because it's just not something they have a vision of right now.
Yeah. I can see it because I see some things, some puzzle pieces are falling in my head right now. Let's say I wanted a leadership position, right? I would go, if it wasn't in my organization, I would go to the market and seek kind of the leadership position that I would want, right? Even if it's an experiment. But because I haven't done that yet, because I haven't been coached, I don't have the right guidance for that. I'm already expectant, or there are expectations of me being in that role, right? I don't know what they are, so I might not even be able to fulfill them. But because it's a switch in that way, nothing is gradual, right? All of a sudden, you are that person, you fulfill that role. There are expectations, whether you know them or not, and you're going to do something, and that's going to have impact on more people because your position, by virtue, has impact on more people, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it is within the organization, which it not always is, exactly as you say, you might outgrow the organization. If the organization is not ready for your growth, you're not going to find that position within the current organization. If it is, however, I hope you would be able to do it more gradually, because then you can be like, okay, these are the things that are expected of me. Let's grab a little bit more of that and gradually move into that position, right? Exactly like you would do with people that are more junior. You would give them more of the complexity stuff, more exactly what they can handle, right? Not too complex, not too easy. And gradually they would grow through that. I think a lot of the leadership positions don't have that gradual approach. Is that something you've seen as well?
Yeah, sometimes again, don't have that opportunity to do that because someone leaves and someone needs to step in and fill those shoes. But in a
Yeah.
perfect world, a good leader would have some sort of succession plan
Mm.
and someone that they and the organization has identified to groom into
Yeah.
that position if something were to happen or if they were to leave, and would already be working on mentoring and coaching someone to build the skills necessary if they were to grow in that way. And then this starts with, hey, identifying where do people want to grow in their career. Some
Yeah.
people want to become managers, and so we want to help them build those skills, have opportunities to take leadership of projects, maybe mentor more junior people, and have those sorts of opportunities where they can take on those increased level of responsibilities before they get thrust right into, now I'm actually managing a team.
Yeah.
Right. But some people don't want that, and we don't need to shove them into that just because they're a great technical person. If that's not aligned, that's going to be a mismatch
Exactly.
of what they even want to do, let alone are going to be good at.
Yeah.
They're always going to be going back to that technical stuff because that's where they want to be, right?
Yeah.
And some people might not know, or just need that extra time. So again, in a perfect world, we're identifying and connecting the needs and desires of the individuals and the needs and the future needs of the organization, and helping groom people to become that. Easier said than done. The principle makes sense, but it's harder in practice because we have all these responsibilities of all the things we need to do right now, and it's easy to lose sight of the future of not just the business and the products and services we're working on, but the people that are in that and making that happen.
Yeah.
But that needs to be a whole part that we can't let lose sight of in terms of our strategy of success.
Yeah.
When we can do
Exactly.
that well. And the manager isn't the only person that owns that. As an individual, no one's going to own your career more than you.
Yeah.
Right. So don't wait for your leader to come and say, hey, where do you want to go in your career? What do you want to do? How can I help you do that? You need to advocate and ask for that. If there's something you want to do, if there's an opportunity to take on a new assignment, learn a new skill, raise your hand.
Yeah.
Take on a new project, take on a new responsibility. Let your leaders know what you want to learn, what you want to accomplish, and then they know, right? But they can't help you find something or build something if they don't know that's something you want to do. So you also need to make that explicit and make that known if there are areas you want to learn and grow. So everyone needs to take ownership of their responsibilities and their part in this process and growing and developing individuals in the business.
Yeah.
Everyone can have that ownership mentality, then we're more likely to be successful in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely, again, I stand behind that, right? You are in control. There's a lot of outside factors and a lot of stuff you cannot control, but how you respond into the circumstances or the context that you're in, you're always in control. So you can choose how to decide or what to do or how to act, right? And those are your decisions. You own that, and no one's going to tell you it's going to be right or wrong. You're going to make those decisions, and you're going to experience yourself, right? If it's a right decision or a wrong decision, in the end, it doesn't matter because you experience it and you grow better because of that. That is part of how you grow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I needed a second to gather my thoughts. What I was still thinking is when you grow into that technology leader position, right, your sphere of influence increases. What is either the single most or a few of the most important skills that a person can have or a skill they can cultivate within being in that position?
Yeah, so I'm going to shift the answer to the question a little bit away from the skill and more from the mindset and mentality as you go into a situation like that.
Okay.
Okay. And we've talked about this a little bit earlier, but again, moving from, am I seeing the people that I'm leading as people that I care about, that I understand what they're trying to accomplish, both the people that I'm leading and also my peers, the other stakeholders? Am I really considering what they're trying to do and accomplish,
Yeah.
and then building that into my work and processes and things like that? Or am I seeing it all as a transaction, or seeing people as objects, as a means to an end? And so that mindset and that approach to how we go about interacting with the individuals, with the teams, the stakeholders, partners, and everything, that changes not just what we do, but how we do it.
Exactly.
Okay? And that has a huge impact on our leadership effectiveness. The other thing, we've talked about this a little bit as well, but just to reiterate that your shift at becoming a leader your impact is no longer in your ability as an individual to deliver a technical solution, right? Your impact as a leader is much more measured by your ability to organize a team
Yeah.
to accomplish that technical solution. And your responsibility is often to get out of the way or to reduce or eliminate roadblocks that are in the way of your team accomplishing this goal, and helping them align with the vision of what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish, and helping pave the way to make that happen.
Exactly.
So you're organizing and optimizing the people and their ability to do their work, but it's not you as an individual delivering a technical solution anymore. And so you have this now responsibility to shepherd and grow the people. And so it goes back to the same mindset of caring about them,
Yeah.
caring about what the organization is trying to accomplish, rather than you being seen as the hero and coming in and solving the technology problem. Like, you want to enable them to do that rather than
Exactly.
coming in and being a savior. And I see that all the time with new leaders. Like, a junior person, comes and they have a problem, like, oh yeah, let me just fix that for you. Because in the moment, yeah, it seems faster for me to just do that for them because I
Yeah.
know how to do that, right? But that doesn't help them learn and grow and develop and become, a better member of the team.
Yeah.
You just solved the problem. You fished for them. You gave them a fish instead of taught them how to fish, to use
Exactly.
that old saying,
Yeah.
right? And so we want to teach people how to fish, help them grow and develop, and it's going to be able to improve your results as a team.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, based on what you said, I can see now how it can be a lot harder to let go of than I thought initially, right? Because being that hero, the hero connotation already in and of its own feels good, right? It's probably a bit
Yeah,
addictive. You're the guy that solves the problem, or they call you when they have a problem because they respect you and trust you to solve it. All of a sudden, they don't do that anymore. You need to be responsible for the hero team all of a sudden, which means you're kind of probably more behind the scenes, right? You're facilitating, removing roadblocks, exactly as you said, right? The person on stage is only that good because of the people behind them, and you're going to be one of the people behind them, facilitating in that way. Just as crucial, or probably even more crucial, but definitely a bit more behind the scenes in that way as well.
right. And we talked a little bit earlier about kind of ownership and responsibility. I think from a leadership perspective, you want to give that ownership and responsibility to your team members.
Yeah,
But as far as like taking responsibility when something goes right, you want to give all of that credit to your team.
exactly.
But when things go wrong, the buck stops at you. And so that's hard. Like, you don't get all the credit for all the wonderful things that your team accomplished. Like, you want to push that to them and say, hey, I see this a lot. I mean, I'm a sports fan, so I love great team sports and basketball and soccer and
Yeah.
American football and things like this. And I see the great coaches,
Mm.
right, of great teams. When a team does really well, they win a game, they will always give credit to the team. The team did great; they were able to do that. And if the team lost or something went wrong, they will always take responsibility. I didn't prepare my team as a coach to help them be successful. I made some decisions, and we didn't get them ready to do this or that or the other.
Yeah,
They're never pointing the finger and blaming. Blaming other people is never helpful.
exactly.
But if you can build people up and own your own responsibilities and then move forward with that, your team's going to be a lot more loyal to you and be willing to to go slay dragons for you if they need to.
Yeah, yeah, I love that analogy. I'm going to think back to how my leaders did that actually, because I don't have great examples of what I've seen. I need to really reflect on that. I really liked how this conversation flowed, kind of starting from career opportunities, growth and mindset, a little insight into the current job market, and then how to become a great technology leader, either transitioning or cultivating those skills and that mindset that comes with it, right? Lifting people up and not finger pointing and blaming, because that's the worst you can do. Is there anything that's
Right.
still missing within that you still wanted to share?
Oh, we could talk for hours, I'm sure, about different things here. um, uh, but I think just going back to every individual, because the people who are listening here are individuals. They're trying to map out their own career, become the person, the professional, the leader that they want to be.
Hmm.
Just trying to ask that question, be intentional, be reflective, get outside of your current situation and ask, who do I want to become?
Yeah.
Right? Do I want to become a leader? Maybe now, maybe later. If so, great. If not, that's okay too. Can you, what are the technologies you want to learn? What are the areas you want to grow? And how do you balance that with the things that are important to you in your personal life? Because
Yeah.
a career is a big part, but it's not the only part. We're living a whole life here, and look at that big picture. And so, again, some more tools that people can go grab. Put together the resource, a career clarity checklist at www.engineeringcareeraccelerator.com/beyond coding, for the listeners of the podcast. And hopefully they go there and they find resources that can help them. We talked about a few of those tools. There's a bunch of other tools and resources there that might be helpful for them getting clarity on what's really important to them. Then if you can figure that out, then you can start taking the actions to get where you want to go.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. I'll put all the links to the socials of Jeff Perry in the description below, as well as the website. I already forgot. That's why it's going to be there in the description below.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks for coming on, and we'll see you on the next episode.